Okay, this video is going to show you how to browse a number of products and show you how to dynamically create them on the page. Now this is basically the same process that I did in the video to show you your current registered users and allow you to delete them if you're an admin. Okay, so it's that same sort of process. What we're also going to do, maybe not in this video because of time, but in the next one, we're gonna build a search system so we can filter the results that we get back and move on to allow people to make ratings about the products. Okay, so first off, let's make sure we've got our web project, and we're going to add a new item to it. We're going to add a new web page, which I'm going to call browse, I think, when it comes up. Chugga. There we go. So let's go for a new web form. Let's call it browse. You can call it whatever you want. Okay, right. In here, I'm going to create a div. And I'm going to give it an ID, and I'm going to call it products. Okay, I'm not going to put anything in it because I'm going to dynamically add things to it. Okay, make sure you put the old run at server so that we can access it in the code. Okay, otherwise it'll be no use to us whatsoever. So I've got, if you look at my server explorer, I've got an item with all this different information in it, price, how many items I've got. Let's put an equals in there, that'll be happy. An image, date added it, description, etc. I'm not going to use all of those things, and you're not going to have the same sort of things in your database, so you need to adapt what I'm doing, okay, to make it fit with you. Now we've got that web page, what we should do, we should go back to our home page, which mine's called default, and add an hyperlink so that we can get to the browse page. So we want anyone to be able to do this, so in my main content div, and you can put this wherever you want, I'm just going to add an hyperlink. So I'm going to open the toolbox up, grab a hyperlink, drag it on. Okay, so change the name that's displayed, let's put it in split view, makes it a little bit easier. Split view always takes ages to load up first time, I don't know why. Okay, so here's my hyperlink. That's where it is in my code. So I'm going to change the display to just say browse products. And I want to make a link, so I'm going to bring up the properties window while I've got it selected, and I'm going to look for navigate URL. If I click the little ellipse button, it brings up the site. So I've got my browse one now, so I'm going to link to that. Okay, so that should show my browse. So if I just run that just to quickly make sure it looks how I thought, so even if I'm not logged in, I should be seeing that. Chugga, it's got to start the server up. Oh, go away. And there you go. So I got my browse. Click on it. It'll actually empty page because I haven't put anything on it yet. Okay, so that works. Right then, let's go to our browse code then. That's our form. We're going to dynamically create this page. So let's go view code. Right click. Right. So when the page loads, what we want to happen is we start displaying the products. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add our products to that div called products. Okay. And we're going to do this by saying Control C equals display products, and eventually we're going to make this filter the products, so we're going to pass some text. Okay, and we'll do the filtering in another video. So we're just going to pass an empty string so far, so we're not filtering at all. Then we're going to say products, which was the name of my div, controls dot add C. Okay, so that's going to create our products, and it's going to store it in a div which we're going to add to our products div. Okay, so let's right click on display products and create it. So generate method stub. Okay, let's change the name of that parameter to filter, and then we're good to go. Okay, so if we just think about what we want to do, right, we need to add a data view. Okay, so we know from experience that the data view isn't part of the libraries that are default included. We know it's part of system.data, so we're going to add a reference to that library, and we're going to generate dynamic HTML controls. So we're going to need to include the system web HTML controls. That's UI oh no, that one's already in on this one. I do need to add that one, it's already there. Okay, so system.data is the one that we need for the data view and the data row view stuff that we've done on other videos. Okay then, so let's make a start on this display products. So we need to first off get the products and hold them in a data view. So let's create a data view, call it, I'm going to call it dv prod books instead of dv for once, just what I'm doing. Right, and we're going to use a helper in our data class to get these products. Okay, so we need to create that first, and that's just going to be a query that grabs all the data. So let's generate a property. Okay, so that should create that. Let's go to it. So go to definition. Okay, so this is going to be a rather simple query. We use this get set thing again, so if we just delete the set one, we're just going to use a getter for this. So we're going to just set up a simple SQL query, and we're going to say, for my case, remember this is going to be different from you, so I'm going to say select everything from, if I go back to my Server Explorer so I don't make a mistake, my table's called item. I want to order them, so I'm going to say order by date added, date, don't make mistakes, date added, descending. So I should get the last one first. Okay, so all I'm going to do is say return, execute and fill. Remember, this gives us a data view back, so we want get products to send a data view back, so we just send back what execute and fill gives us. Okay, which might be null, but we'll see. So that's that bit done. So let's go back to browse. That's just a simple query. Okay, next bit. Now we've got that, we can apply our filter, even though we haven't got one yet, and we'll come on to how we're going to build that filter. So we can say dv products dot row filter equals our filter. Okay, so it's in place for when we do that. Right, what we're also going to need to create is a div to stick all the data into. Okay, so we say HTML generic, hang on, I've got a problem here. Right, HTML generic controls isn't there. I think if we add a library using, I was going to add this and I didn't think, it's UI dot, not web controls, it's the HTML controls. I got confused with this one. Okay, so this one allows me to create like hyperlinks, image tags, various things. Right, so let's try again. So I've had to add that library in HTML controls. So we need to create a HTML generic control, which I'm going to call, what should I call it, div? Or let's call it something a bit more meaningful, product list. Okay, and that's going to be a new HTML control, which is a div tag. Okay, so I've created that. Now I'm going to build my stuff using labels. Okay, so I'm going to create a label that I can keep reusing. I'm just going to call it L. Okay, so that's a little bit of setup. Now what I'm going to do is going to use a for each command, and I'm going to go through each data row. So that's a data row view. Make sure you get all the capitalization right. And I'm going to call this item in DB products. Okay, so I'm going to work through each row that I got from the database query. Okay, and for each item I get, I'm going to build a div to put these items in before I add them to the whole div for the page. Okay. Okay, so let's create another div, and I'm just going to call this one, what should I call it? Item div, that's what we'll call it, I think. So we've created a div that is going to contain all the items, and then for each item we store them in a separate div. That'll allow you to build CSS for them later. Okay, so I'm going to start off by, I'm going to give this a class. So item div dot attributes class equals item. So what I'll be able to create, if I want to later on, is a class in a CSS file that'll be called .item, and I'll be able to put like borders around each product. Okay, but I'm not going to show you that. I'm going to leave that for you to do. Now I've got an image for my item, so what I'm going to create is an image tag and build my image in it. So just say image, and I'm going to call it img, just keep it short. Right, the URL for this, so image URL comes from my field's called image. Okay, so I'm assuming you built code to add an image for your products. If you haven't got any images, you obviously don't need to do this bit. So remember, I called each data row an item, so I'm saying the field image for the row item. Okay, that's why I used a for each. It makes it look a bit nicer. Now, what I'm also going to do, oops, I've got caps lock on. Let me touchpad off while I'm at it as well. I want it to be a fixed height. Now if I just specify for this image a size, so a height of 100, automatically the browser will make the width correct to keep the image in its original proportion. If I set the image and the width, then it'll stretch it to whatever I say. But if I just set either the width or the height, it'll make it stay the same proportion. So if it was 500 pixels high and 100 pixels wide, when I set this, it will make it 20 pixels wide. Okay, so if you set just one of the values, it will make it proportionate. What I'm also going to do, and you can do the same thing here with CSS, is I'm going to set the image to align left. Now what that means is that everything else will wrap around it. Okay, and you'll see that effect when we show it on screen. Okay, now so that's the image for it. Now I'm going to create my label and put all my text information up. Okay, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to say text equals. Now I'm going to put the title as a heading 2. This is a special tag that's already got a style. Well, you can change the style of it in CSS, but it just makes it bolder and a little bit bigger. So I'm going to say string item, and my field's called title. Okay. So on each line I do here, I'm going to add an extra bit of information. Okay. Now headings automatically force the next thing to be on the next line, so I don't need to worry about anything. So I'm going to say text plus equals, so this is just adding onto the string for the label, and I'm going to have item description. I want to display that, but I want to put a blank line after it, so I'll put a line break tag, and then on the next line down, plus equals, I'm going to put the price up, so I'm going to put a £, plus item price. Now I don't have to cast this to string because that's implied, because I'm building a bit of string concatenation, so the compiler does that for us. Very nice of it. Okay, so, but technically I should do what I did here, where I said treat it as a string. I'm just showing you different things you can do. Okay, and I'm also going to put, after that, I'm going to put how many I've got in stock, because I've got an amount field in mind. You might not have this, so don't attempt to put it in. Okay, I'm also going to put the date up that it was added, so plus equals, leave a space because I'm carrying on that line with all the others. Added on. Right, so I need to, this one's a little bit more complicated. This is what you need to do with a date. Okay, so I've got item date added. Oh dear me. Okay, but I don't want to put a stupid date with all the time information in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast this. I'm saying, yeah, this is a date time. Okay, and then I'm going to put brackets around the whole thing. Casting can look messy sometimes, because I want to use the long date string. So I'm going to say to a long date string. Okay. So I've added all my text information. What I now need to do is make sure that I add them to the div. So I'm going to say item div dot controls dot add L. What I have forgotten to do is add my image to my div, so I need to just go back up and do the same. So I say item div dot controls dot add image. Okay. Right, probably not much more to do here now. So all we've got to do is make sure that what we do before we end this loop is add this item div that we've created that contains an image and some text to the product list. Okay, so at the end of all this, oops, I'm just going to say product list dot controls dot add item div. Okay, and when I finish my loop, I should be in a position to return the product list, which is the control that's got all the items in, because that's what I did there. I said display products was a function that returned a control, and that control is called product list, and it contains all these items that I've found in my database. Okay, and when it comes back, we add it to the products tag that we created right at the start of this browse page. Okay, so let's run this and see what we get. I've got a few product items in my database. So obviously you're not going to see anything if you haven't got any items, so you might need to whack some in. Okay, and there you go. I haven't got an image for that one, obviously. It's broken, but that's okay. So we've got image, and that was aligned left, and then we've got the heading, description, and then all the other stuff on one line, and we've got that a number of times. Okay, right, I'm going to leave this video here, and the next video is going to add on to this. Okay, so let's just recap what we've got. Let's make sure it works from the default page now. So if I highlight my default page and run, it'll start up with my default page. Click on my browse products, There you go. Okay, so I just got this. It's a bit impotent at the minute, it doesn't do much, but you can see that it's got my data from my things. The next video is going to do the search bit, so set up that filter code. Okay.